Unit, Unit 4, the grasses. Our thought for the day. Albert Einstein said if A equals success, then the formula is A equals X plus Y plus Z, where X is work, Y is play, and Z is keep your mouth shut. Brilliant guy, that Einstein. Structure and growth of grass plants. Here we see a diagram of a typical grass plant. Grass plants are somewhat different than other plants because their growing point is called the crown, and it is typically low to the ground, right at the surface of the soil. That's a reason that, for instance, on a lawn, you can mow the grass repeatedly and not kill it because it grows from a point below where it's being cut and it keeps sending up new shoots. What happens is from the crown of the grass plant, it sends up something called a tiller, which is like a stem to which the individual leaves or blades of grass are attached. If the grass plant is mowed or cut, the crown has the ability to send up ever more and more tillers and more leaves. A grass plant has a typically fibrous root system without a major taproot, and it anchors it into the soil. The grass plant's root system can be quite deep. Prairie grass root systems are known to go 7 to 8 feet deep into the soil, and even deeper in some cases. Grass plants can reproduce both sexually and asexually. And asexually or vegetatively, they have two methods of reproduction which are very similar. In one, they send out a rhizome, which is a specialized stem that grows beneath the surface of the soil, and a new grass plant is developed at the end of the rhizome. The second method is to send out a similar structure called a stolon, but the stolon grows on the surface of the soil, or right at the surface, and a new grass plant will grow on the end of that. Then this point, it can actually create another stolon and develop a new grass plant. But once this grass plant has started developing and develops its own root system, if the stolon or the rhizome are cut for any reason, the new little grass plants can survive. To remember which is which, I always simply remember stolons grow on the surface. The S's, stolon and surface. And so rhizome has to be the other one. The next slide is basically a recap of the information I've just given you if you need to come back and review it. Grass plants typically grow from the crown, as I mentioned, just above the soil level. It sends out tillers, and the leaves grow from the tiller. As grass plants mature, they can have several tillers. Perennial grass plants, like the type of grass that makes up your lawn, reproduce primarily vegetatively or asexually, as opposed to by seed. In a mature grass community, like your lawn or a prairie, 99% or more of the grass plants in that community have arisen from asexual reproduction via stolons or rhizomes. Grasses typically use seeds to allow them to spread to new areas, carried by wind or animals or water, till they land in a suitable position for growth. So in a mature community, most of the grass plants have arisen asexually. The fruit and the seed of a grass plant are combined into a single structure, and we refer to that structure as a grain. The fruit wall and the seed coat are fused together. Now, think of something like an apple, where the fruit wall is the outside peel of the apple. and the seed coat covers the small seeds inside. In a grass plant, that whole structure is combined into a single one, and the fruit wall and seed coat fuse together, and they form a structure that we call bran. The embryo inside is referred to as the germ. So the outside, the seed coat, and the fruit wall are the bran. The germ is the embryo. So for instance, wheat germ is the embryo of the wheat plant. When you eat bran or bran flakes, something like that, it's this part of the outer side of the plant. The rest of the interior is a big area made up of something called endosperm. The endosperm provides energy for the embryo to grow once the grass seed starts to germinate, but before the embryo is capable of doing photosynthesis on its own. It needs some source of energy to get to a point where it can do photosynthesis. The endosperm provides that. Now the germ or the embryo doesn't have a capability of converting the endosperm to nutrients on its own. So inside a seed of grain, there's this layer called the alurone layer. Here you can see it highlighted in green. It's just this outer green circle around the endosperm. When the grass starts to germinate, the alurone layer releases enzymes that begin converting the endosperm into food for the grass plant. The newly emerging embryo makes use of that food, as I said, before photosynthesis is started. Once it has a true root in the ground, and once it has a leaf above ground, it is then capable of taking up water from the soil and capturing sunlight energy and beginning photosynthesis on its own. So this little food store is critical to get the grass plant growing.